Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we are going on a wild journey deep beneath the Earth's surface. We're going to uncover the hidden secrets of the Circum-Pacific Zone. If you've ever wondered why certain parts of our world are seemingly always shaking, erupting, or just radically transforming, well, you are in exactly the right place. So let's dive right in and uncover the sheer scale of what we're actually dealing with. 68%. Just think about that for a second. Our planet is absolutely massive, right? But an astounding 68% of all global earthquakes happen in just one specific horseshoe-shaped region of the Pacific Ocean. More than 2/3 of the crustal dislocations and violent tremors across our entire globe are concentrated right here. But wait, it actually gets even more intense. Even more staggering as this figure, 80%. Not only is this zone responsible for the vast majority of earthquakes, but a whopping 80% of the world's active volcanoes located at convergent boundaries are also packed right into this exact same area. We are literally looking at the absolute most geologically active belt on the face of the Earth. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be hitting 1. The Ring of Fire, 2. The Tectonic Framework, 3. Earthquakes and fault lines, 4. Volcanoes and mountain building, 5. Trenches and island arcs, and finally 6. Earth's most active belts. Starting us off with Section 1, the Ring of Fire, a horseshoe of chaos. You see, this volatile zone isn't just some random scattering of hotspots, it's a very specific interconnected perimeter outlining the Pacific Ocean. It actually kicks off all the way down south in the icy Erebus Mountains of Antarctica. From there, it runs northwards, carving out the massive Andes in South America and the Rockies in North America, reaching all the way up to Alaska. Then, it sweeps eastwards along the coast of Asia, hitting Kamchatka, Sakhalin, Japan, and the Philippines. Finally, this giant horseshoe swings down and merges with the mid-continental belt in Indonesia. It is just a continuous, violent rim of activity. Which brings us to Section 2, the Tectonic Framework, the mechanism revealed. Okay, so there are two main types of plate interactions we really need to understand here. On one hand, we have divergent boundaries. These are relatively peaceful. Plates simply pull away from each other, and new crust is gently generated. We call those constructive. But then we have convergent boundaries, and this is absolutely crucial for our explainer today. Convergent boundaries are destructive. This is where massive tectonic plates violently collide and the Earth's crust is literally destroyed. The Ring of Fire is almost entirely defined by these brutal convergent boundaries. When these plates converge, we get what's called a subduction zone. This is the specific location where the heavier oceanic plate is essentially forced down, or subducted, beneath another plate. And it doesn't just bump into it either. It dives down at a steep angle of approximately 45 degrees straight into the fiery mantle below. This single action, subduction, is the main engine driving all the extreme geology of the Circum-Pacific Zone. Let's look at the immediate impact of that in Section 3, Earthquakes and Fault Lines, when the Earth shakes. You know, it's pretty easy to picture tectonic plates just smoothly sliding past each other. But that is definitely not the reality. Because of the immense pressure of the overlying rock strata, these fault lines actually get locked together tightly by friction. They want to move, but they're stuck. Eventually, though, the relentless tectonic forces overcome that friction. The rock blocks physically deform under the stress, and then suddenly they snap and slide past one another. That sudden snapping releases massive amounts of energy as seismic waves. Just to put that into perspective, because of the relentless convergence here, Japan alone records about 1,500 of these seismic shocks every single year. But it's not just plates grinding together that causes the ground to shake. We also have volcanic earthquakes. Volcanic activity and seismic events are intimately linked. They essentially act as a giant chain of cause and effect for each other. Deep underground, explosive, violent gases from melting rock are desperately trying to escape upward. They push the crustal surface from below with absolutely incredible force. And this immense upward pressure, it leads to severe tremors all on its own. Moving on to Section 4, Volcanoes and Mountain Building Rising from Destruction. There's a really stark contrast in where all this fiery activity happens. We mentioned earlier that 80% of the world's active volcanoes sit at convergent boundaries. Now compare that to just 15% at divergent boundaries and a mere 5% in intraplate regions like Hawaii.
When that heavy Pacific plate subducts at a 45-degree angle, it melts. That molten rock, or magma, is lighter than the surrounding rock, so it forcefully punches its way up to the surface, creating the world's highest concentration of active volcanoes.
And the result of this magma punching through the crust over millions of years? Majestic peaks. We are talking about massive volcanic fold mountains like Cotopaxi in the Andes. Towering at 5,896 meters, that is the highest volcanic mountain in the entire world, built entirely by the subduction of the Pacific Ocean floor. We also see legendary peaks like Fujiyama in Japan, along with Mount Shasta, Mount Rainier, and Mount St. Helena in the United States. They are all breathtakingly beautiful, but make no mistake, they are born from violent tectonic collisions. Let's dive into Section 5, Trenches and Island Arcs, Scars and Stepping Stones. When you have a massive oceanic plate diving downward, it literally drags the seafloor down with it, creating an oceanic trench. Imagine a slow-motion car crash where the front bumper is just being continuously pushed deep into the earth. This process carves out massive, incredibly deep oceanic depressions right along the coastlines of the continents. These trenches are basically the physical scars of subduction. And just a little further inland from those deep trenches, we find something truly fascinating: festoons. A festoon, or an island arc, is an archipelago shaped like a loop around the edge of a mainland. Remember how we said subduction creates magma? Well, when two oceanic plates collide, one subducts, melts into magma, and that magma erupts underwater. Over time, these underwater volcanoes grow taller and taller until they finally break the surface of the ocean, creating a beautiful, looping chain of brand new islands. The Circum-Pacific Zone is absolutely famous for these. You've got the Aleutian Islands extending off Alaska, the Ryukyu and Kuril Islands, and entire nations like Japan and the Philippines. These aren't just random islands scattered in the sea. They are direct geological products of magma rising from a subducted, destroyed tectonic plate right below them. Which brings us to our final stop, Section 6, Earth's most active belt, the interconnected system. This whole equation perfectly illustrates the Circum-Pacific Zone. Every violent action has a massive geographical reaction. Subduction, that creates deep ocean trenches along the margins. The resulting magma production, that builds beautiful island arcs like Japan. The intense folding of the continental crust, well, that pushes up massive volcanic mountains like the Andes. And the friction and fault dislocation from all this movement is exactly what triggers the thousands of earthquakes felt in these regions every single year. None of these are isolated events. They're all just interlocking gears in the exact same massive geological machine. Which brings us to a really fascinating irony. Converging boundaries, the very engine of the Ring of Fire, are scientifically labeled destructive because the Earth's lithosphere, its solid outer shell, is constantly being destroyed and melted down. Meanwhile, diverging boundaries are considered constructive because they quietly make new crust. But here is what I really want you to take away from this explainer today, and what I want you to think about the next time you look at a map. If the so-called destruction of the Earth's crust is exactly what builds our highest volcanic mountains and our most beautiful island chains, what new lands, what future mountains and islands are being violently forged beneath our feet right now? It really makes you realize that our planet isn't just a static rock floating in space. It is a living, breathing, and constantly changing factory. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope this helped you understand the sheer incredible power of the Circum-Pacific Zone.